Hey everyone, we've got something a little bit different for you tonight. I'm going to go over a leak of the new DJI drone, so I hope you stick around, you might learn something. Today we're going to do something a little bit different than what I usually do, but I guess along the same lines of what I've been doing in the last few weeks. If you do or do not know, DJI have been working on an FPV drone, and not just the FPV components that we use to kind of fly and see our FPV feeds. So you'll be familiar with the DJI Digital FPV system, which are these goggles, the controller and the air unit. They're working on a smaller controller and they're working on an FPV drone. Now the drone looks like, I guess, a normal FPV drone in some senses, but it's built up to be protected. So whilst a normal FPV drone looks something like this, the DJI version looks something like this. So in the images you can see here, it's the DJI FPV Combo. So they're intending it to sell it much like you would buy your normal DJI drones in a combo pack that would come with all the things you need to fly it. So these ones are intending to come with goggles, a controller, and the FPV drone itself. The FPV goggles look to be exactly the same as the ones that they released last year, which are these DJI FPV goggles, the ones that I've got here in front of me. We'll use this now as a scale. So let's actually do that right now. So on the image you can see they have this in the box, they have this pack in the box, and you can see that the drone is only a little bit bigger than this. So in terms of scale, it's just a little bit bigger than my 5-inch or a typical 5-inch drone. So in terms of size and scale, it'll be a little bit bigger than this, and it looks to be a little bit chunkier and clunkier. And I think that's mostly because they're trying to hide all the components and make it a consumer type drone. But let's get into some of the specs before we say it. It obviously says DJI FPV Combo, so this will obviously be a ready to fly package. Comes with the drone, the controller, the FPV goggles. If you look closely, you can actually see the drone's camera, and I think some details on that camera have been leaked, and they are as follows. It's apparently going to have a 4K 60 frames per second sensor with image stabilization for the FPV feed as well as the image capturing. So comparatively to what we see now, and this is in HD, but it's not stabilized by any sense, and I don't know how that'll work with the actual flying, because the FPV experience is kind of supposed to be unstabilized, but maybe it'll work similar to how the Osmo Pocket works on the FPV setting, kind of where you fix it but it's real smoothed out. Maybe that's how it'll work. It looks like on the top of the drone you can see that kind of frosted cover. That's where they'll keep. Underneath there I think will be all the brains, the flight controller, the ESCs, all that stuff will be underneath there. I'd imagine this will be clipped up with a normal smart DJI battery, and this is kind of where DJI are going to get people, that once you buy this, it's not going to be like the normal tinkering that we're used to with our FPV drones. Once you buy it, you're kind of in that system, and you can't chip and change and modify, change your motors one week if you feel like upgrading, or add on new propellers because you want to do X or you want to do Y. It's going to be you and your DJI set, and you're going to be married with DJI, much like Apple do. I have an Apple computer, so once you're in the system, you're in the system. And I think where we are right now, this and the controller and the air unit allow us to still be hobbyists in the field, but also have the full HD experience. So maybe this is a way for them to add consumers to the game. So let's keep going through a couple more of these things. So the drones have all been released to some retailers apparently, and the retailers have begun testing. If you look at the image here, where it's kind of got a whole lot of checklists on the back of the drone, and also the drone up against a keyboard, you can kind of get an idea of scale. And this is what I'm talking about. It's quite chunky. I think it's very chunky, and quite clumsy in my opinion. But I don't know. I personally don't like it. I think it's too big and clumsy, and I don't think it's going to sit well with the FPV community. But again, that's not who I think this is directed at. I think this is directed at people who want to get into FPV but don't necessarily want to build and tinker. Apparently the drone's going to have 3 modes. One of the modes obviously being tripod mode, I think they call it in DJI terms, then the normal mode, and then a sport mode. And apparently, listen to this, apparently the speeds that they're expecting to get with this is 150 kilometers an hour, or 93 miles per hour, with an FPV drone that any old Tom, Dick and Harry can go and pick up. That's madness. And then obviously, you know, the other modes we're familiar with. One of them will be slow and the other one will be the normal mode. So those will be the normal modes that we're familiar with DJI. Apparently also something that's going to be added to this drone will be things like return to home safely, obstacle avoidance, which kind of defeats the whole FPV experience and that thrill that you get of feeling like you're a bird and you need to be careful of what you're flying into, if you know what I mean. You guys know what I mean. You can also tilt the camera. So if you have a DJI drone, you'll know that you can tilt the camera while you're flying and change what it's looking at. Looks like you can also do that with this drone. Jeez. It's going to have GPS, all the stuff that you expect to see on a normal DJI drone. It'll have some of those features. It's also going to have automated flights. So some of those features you usually see on normal DJI drones, like the follow me, the circle, the orbit, whatever they're called, those types of things are going to be included on this, which is quite crazy. It seems like this is an FPV version of a Mavic Air, kind of. Now, the controller looks very, very similar to a Beta FPV Lite 2 controller or a TBS Tango 2 controller, while kind of keeping that DJI-esque look to it. So they've gone with a normal grey-ish color, and it's got that kind of T-bar that sticks up the top. Apparently there's also going to be space for the 2 little joysticks to unscrew and clip in like on the other DJI drones, which is, I think, an amazing feature actually. You may or may not know, but back in August we got a glimpse of what the drone looked like. It was blurred out images. This is what it looked like back in August, so we didn't really know, but it looks like those images, those leaks, were in fact what it looks like. The colors have changed slightly by the looks of it, but you know, it kind of shows what it's going to look like. It does appear that there's a front bumper on the drone that would absorb some shock impacts, perhaps, not sure. The FPV camera is also going to double as the normal recording camera, which is interesting concept. I guess that does away with the need to put a GoPro or another action camera on the top. I guess you lose the whole thing of using real steady, which might be something you're not interested in losing. I personally don't want to lose real steady. I think real steady, the way it works, is unbelievable. It makes your footage look so good. I guess so. In closing, I think DJI have made it looks like DJI are making an FPV drone and it's going to be released imminently. I don't know what the price will be, but considering these are kind of upwards of £400 plus a controller plus a drone, I don't see this costing anywhere less than £1,000 at the very least. Probably going to be upwards of £1,000. Who's it meant for? It's meant for the consumer, I guess, not the hobbyist. I don't think this is meant to pull hobbyists away from their hobby. I think this is made to get the drone user that already has a DJI drone into the FPV community, which I think is a good thing. The more people doing this, the more people there are doing this, which means things get cheaper, economies of scale, there's more interest, and it means that the thing that you're doing on the weekend or that you enjoy doing becomes more acceptable and maybe gives us a little bit of limelight. That's something that's one of the things that we enjoy doing. What it's also going to do is that there's going to be a lot of people flying FPV, and a lot of people, DJI make it very easy for anyone to fly a drone, and are they going to make it probably easy for anyone to fly FPV? So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes in the drone community, and the regulations, I'm calling it now, I think the regulations are going to change swiftly when people start flying FPV all around. What weight class, I guess, is it going to fit into? It's probably going to be quite heavy. I would say at least a kilogram. You know, it's going to be Mavic type weight, Mavic Pro type weight. Definitely heavier than, you know, a typical 5-inch drone with a battery. But It looks cool. Will I be getting it? I don't think so. I don't think I'm changing anywhere. I guess that's all I really wanted to talk about. I appreciate you listening. I guess you don't need to read the article now. You can just listen to me babble, watch what's on the screen, I suppose. But you have a good time. My name is Michael. If you didn't know, I make FPV documentation videos of what I'm doing and what I'm learning along this journey. I've been flying for a month at this point when you would have seen this video, and I'm loving it, and I intend to continue documenting this whole process. I make other videos, I make travel documentaries and stuff like that, but I'm still learning like you, and I think that's what's part of the process. So if you enjoy what you see, drop a like and a comment. Let me know who you are, where you're from. Are you intending on getting into FPV? What do you think about this DJI drone? And then, you know, if you want to be part of the team, drop me a subscribe if you would like to. Is that how you say it? Drop me a subscribe? Subscribe to the channel if you like it. You have a fantastic night, and I will see you in another video. Cheers.